All right, what's going on, stats classes? I apologize for not being there. Day 2, and Smith's already letting you down. Um, but I promise you, I'm not at the beach somewhere. I am at home, and I am at a leadership conference that's virtual, that's been on my schedule for about 6 months. So, promise I'm not ditching you. I'm going to be doing just as much work as you are today. And I got to keep this video short because I am cheap and I only have a free trial on this Screencast-O-Matic recording software. So here's the goal for the video. I'm going to refresh some of the concepts that we went over yesterday. Still living in first semester right now, resurfacing some things to the top of our brain that we're going to use all semester and that are kind of pivotal takeaways from stats this fall, as a lot of you go to college and might take a stats class next year. And I also want to use this video to refresh some our studio skills, bring some coding back to the top, and look at Excel. So to do that, we're going to be living here today. It's got today's date, tomorrow's date, our Excel review video. I haven't finished this video yet, but the link will be there. Watch that first, which hopefully you're watching it now, and then we'll use these two things. So this video is not going to cover these two things. I want you to do that on your own. I'm going to show you all the tools, though, that you're going to need. So trust me, this video will be well worth your time. I will make sure of that. Okay? So the first thing that I want to just make sure you remember is how to download a data set. And I will use this to show you. You click on that, it pops down here, and notice it says it's already a .csv, which means that that's the format that we want to import it into R. So when you open it in Excel, it'll look something like this. Good looking data set. I'll explain to you what all of the variables mean shortly. And then we want to import it into R. So I'm just clearing this out a little bit. So I'm going to go to import data set. And if you know it's a CSV file already, then you'll click this middle option and you go and find it. Mine's going to be in download somewhere. There it is, states. Let's see if it worked. Boom, there it is. And I don't know about you, but I like to change the name of my data to all lowercase with no weird numbers and symbols and make it really short. So it makes my coding lightning fast. Import, boom, we're in. States data set. So first thing you always do when you get a data set, and I know some of you skip this because I'm tempted to skip it too, but it's necessary, is you've got to familiarize yourself with what in the world the variables represent. Okay, so I'm going to give this to you. Might want to jot this down on a sheet of paper or take some notes somewhere. This data set, the first category is all 50 states. Okay. Second category is we broke the states down into different regions. And the regions are a little tricky, like these symbols. Like, for example, PAC, that's the Pacific region. ESC is East South Central, West South Central, Mountain, Pacific, North, New England, Mountain, South Atlantic. I think there's a Middle Atlantic. Yep. So I will explain more of those later, but just notice that's the region of the country that it's in. Then you have the population. And these numbers, obviously there's more than 550 people in Alaska. This is represented in thousands. It's 550,000 people. Then we've got two categories that involve SAT scores. We've got the verbal and the math. Then this percent is percent of students who take the SAT from a given state. You've got the dollars per student, like average dollars spent per student. We've got teacher pay, and this is in thousands. Okay, these two numbers are in thousands. And then math grade is something that we made up just to give us another categorical variable. We took the SAT math scores and we just gave them a letter grade A through F. All right, so we're familiar with the data set, and I'm going to do some stuff on R and Excel that does not involve this data set because I don't want to give you all the answers, but I'm going to just do a quick 5-minute refresh on some of your coding skills, okay? So how do we make a contingency table? Now I will say on this one I'm going to use the data set that we have. Contingency tables are for categorical variables only. Remember, categoricals, they don't involve numbers, they're categories. And the first thing you have to do in order for you to get a visualization is we have to find all the counts. We have to know how many in each category. So when I look at this data set, I see that region is a categorical data variable and that math grade. Those are the only two. We're not going to count states because it's literally all 50 states. They're all different. So we got region and we got math grade. So if I want to make a contingency table on R, the way I do it is I would use, I know this is going to blow your mind, but you use table. And then you type your data set in and put a $sign. And then you pick a categorical variable. And then you'd put a comma and do the same thing and pick a different one. So I don't want to give you the answers. So let me just use MT cars, which is a famous data set. I'll pick a category, which is cylinder. And then MT cars, pick another one that's category gear, something like that. There you go. I just made a contingency table. Okay. I've got the cylinders as the rows and the gear as the columns, and it gives you a count. So notice that coding, and you'll do something similar for yours. If we're going to go to Excel and do it, I'll point you in the right direction. You highlight your entire data set and you go to Insert, Pivot Table. Now these pivot tables are nice because you can do some fancy stuff, but let's just do it on a new worksheet so that it takes us to this blank sheet. But look what we got over here, all of our categories. And remember, our two categories, we had region was one of them, that goes in the rows. We've got math grade, that goes in the columns. And you're like, well, it's still blank, Smith. That's because the final thing you need to do is you need to take whatever you put in the columns and also put it in the values, so it will actually give you the counts. Okay, and just a reminder, you clean this up, you can click on the down arrow for columns and take out the blank column. You can do the same thing for the row labels, take out the blanks. But what I like about this is you can copy this, and then when you right click to paste, click this option where it just does the values, and then you can do a lot of formatting. Change your categories, you can put a border around it, you can do a lot of different things. Okay, and one last thing is you can right click on these cells over here and you can show the values as a lot of different options. I want you to tinker with those, and the activity in a second is going to ask you to do something with that. So that is a little bit on contingency tables. Now let's shoot to bar plots. Bar plots are made from your contingency tables because bar plots are used for categorical variables. That's the best way to give us a visual representation of a categorical variable. So to make a bar plot, you have to take your counts. I'm just going to use the one I used for MT cars, and you have to give them a name. I'm just going to call it BP for bar plot. Okay. And now that I saved this BP over here, this table, I can make a bar plot of that data that I saved. So notice I'm making a bar plot of my BP, and it popped over here. Couple things to fix, and you'll do this for your own. Just a reminder, we like to not have these stacked. This is a stacked bar plot. I like to have them beside each other. So we'll do beside equals true. That lines them up like that. We'll give ourselves a legend. Legend equals true, and give ourselves a legend. You can give yourself a main title by putting main equals sign. And then what is this? This was just a test bar plot. I'll just give it a title as a test bar plot. And then you can add colors. Remember COL equals, and we need what, 3 colors? So I'll just pick 3 random numbers. Let's go 15, 16, 17. It's like playing the lottery. What? Oh man, I messed that up. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. There we go. I accidentally took that. Let's do COL equals. And then let's do, what is 15, 16, 17? I think I gotta put my little C in there to do a list. Yeah. What colors did I get? Oh, gotta do it extra. Alright, what's going on? There we go. What is that? I don't want gray and black on there, but that kind of looks like, I don't know if there's any Steelers fans. Sorry about Coach Bowling, but there you go, Steelers colors. But obviously, That was bad. Let's do 13 and 10. There you go. It's fun to mess around with the colors. But anyways, bar plots are made from your contingency tables, right? So final thing, let's talk about box plots. These are very easy. Just type box plot. And if you take, this is for quantitative now. So box plot for miles per gallon, boom. I have a box plot for my miles per gallon. You can add labels. You can add a 5-number summary to tell me, remember this middle line, the darkened line is the median. You've got your maximum, your minimum. You've got your Q1 and Q3, your quartiles. A lot of juicy stats in that graph right there. But I want to show you what's better is you can take a quantitative variable like miles per gallon and you can break it down. Look what symbol's about to pop up here, the tilde symbol. Break it down by a categorical variable, which would be the cylinder. And look what it did. It gave me a box plot for each category. Now we're talking. Okay, that's awesome. So that's a little hint on box plots. You'll use that. Histograms is just HIST. And you can do histograms, once again, are just for quantitative. And there's just one variable. You can't really mix. So there's a histogram for miles per gallon. We can talk about the shape, the center, the spread. Looks like that is kind of unimodal with maybe a little skew to the right. But you can give me some stats lingo there. I want to finish the video with z-scores and a reminder of those. We talked a little bit about what those were yesterday, but a quick reminder. A z-score measures how far away a certain value is from the average. So if the average 30-year-old man can bench press 200 pounds, okay, and I can bench 375, then my z-score is going to be like a 2. It's going to be 2 standard deviations above the mean, right? If I could only bench 95, then I would be like a -2. Okay, so z-scores, they measure how far away you are from the average. So you can do so many cool things with z-scores. Okay, for example, if I wanted to find the z-score, which the code is called scale. So if I wanted to find the z-scores for miles per gallon for cars, then that shows you, here's all my different z-scores for my cars. Okay, and you're like, but I don't know which car that goes with. Okay, well, I'll show you that in a second. And we're going to find 2 z-scores. We found the z-scores for my miles per gallon. You can see some are above average, some are below. Then let's find a z-score for horsepower. And there's the z-scores for horsepower. So what if I wanted to find the best car in regards to miles per gallon combined with horsepower? We want to look for the car that has the best combined z-scores. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this miles per gallon z. I got to hurry here because my video is getting close to being done. I'm going to call this horsepower z. And then I'm going to finally do a combo z, which is my miles per gallon z plus my horsepower z. And what I then have is a combo z. So when I click on that combo z, they're all combined. And we can find what our best car is. But it's like, Smith, I don't know which car is which. Okay, that's the final missing piece. Is now we're going to make our very own data frame, data.frame. We're going to put the first column is going to be MT cars. And this would work with any other data set except for the ones that come on this program. So I apologize. But what you would do is when you're doing this later is you would do your data set. And like for the states data set, for example, you would do MT cars, and then you would do states, $, and then pick the state. So then you have the state name, and then you would put combo Z. You with me? So let's just do this. I know this is kind of wrong because it's going to have states instead of cars, but I want you to see what it looks like. I'm going to name my data frame DF1 for data frame 1. And there's different rows. Duh. So what we're going to do, I'm going to show you just what it means to make a data frame. MPGZ, HPZ, and combo Z. I make that data frame. It's called DF1 over here. And look, it put the columns there because those are the ones that I picked. As long as you put the first column as the name, then you'll be able to match up and highlight and click the up arrow, get the worst cars or the best cars. This video's wrapping up. Work together, work hard, and I'll see you tomorrow. Answer those